Welcome to Off the Cuff, Rocked On Detroit Lions podcast. It is still Sunday night, March 18th. Monday night, March 18th. And we're going to get into what everyone's been talking about, at least over the last couple of days. And that is Greenberg, Greeny Green, talking his stuff about the Detroit Lions. And I'm going to start with what he said. And then I'm going to go into something else that I prepared that I think will give you an idea of why Brad Holmes is smarter than good old Greeny. So we've already seen what Brad Holmes had in store for us today on a Monday, solidifying our offensive line and making sure that this team is ready to go week one. Got to get the rally cap turned back around here. And he did an excellent job. And we just spoke about it for a few moments there, around 8:30 or around 7:30, that, this signing just adds to this offensive line's depth. I mean, an instant starter. And so now we don't have to worry about anything in the draft. All positions have been taken care of, at least from a starting perspective. And there's plenty of depth in other areas. And now this draft is setting up for Brad Holmes to do what he does, which is find the talent that fits the best player available, but it's the best football player that fits this team. And so far he's been successful. This team has gotten better every single year. And there is one point that, that Greenberg made that I may agree with, but largely what he said, the dude is full of crap. So let's start with that. Yeah, I'll let that one slide, Braylon. I'm good with that one. Is Zeitler hurt? I don't think so. I don't think Zeitler's hurt. Why did we sign him? So here we go. This is what Greenberg pretty much, had to say. The Detroit Lions obviously were one of the best stories in 2023. Up and coming team. They made we made our first NFC championship game, first one in decades, 30 plus years that we've really done anything in the league, and came close, 17 minutes close, or 17 points away anyway, 30 minutes close to making the Super Bowl. And we lost in heartbreaking fashion. We truly did, to the San Francisco 49ers. And it's a game that I will never forget. I was there. It was an amazing, weekend with Megan and enjoying something that I've never been able to be a part of. But that doesn't mean just because you've gone the distance almost that you can't get back. But then again, I have been on record saying many times that it is very difficult to get back. And as the offseason started, we were optimistic that Brad Holmes was going to put us in the driver's seat, pull the trigger on some solid free agents to get this team over the hump in 2024. And Greenberg didn't share that same sentiment. Not at all. Not one bit. And I want to bring in exactly what he said. Let me get it here. Oh, hold on. Let me bring in, I don't know why it's so grainy looking, but hey, that's grainy. And I'll come back to the chat here in just a moment. Just give me a minute. All right, here we go.
I think they missed their window. I think their shot to win the championship was last year.
Explain yourself.
I think they're getting surpassed in their own division. I think Green Bay is now better than them. I think Green Bay was a coming, and I think Detroit had it. Like look at all throughout history. Look how many teams lose games in the playoffs, deep in the playoffs, that we think, oh, man, well, that was just the beginning. They'll be back. How many times is that team not back? The Lions had the 40.
Okay, that part I agree with. And I've said it many times. It is very difficult to get back. Like you said, time and time again, you've got really good teams that, go the distance. They make it to the playoffs. Heck, they even win the Super Bowl, and you just expect that they're going to repeat the next year or at least get to the dance, and it doesn't happen.
49ers dead to rights in their own building in the NFC Championship game. How about when Buffalo lost that game 13 seconds against Kansas City? Well, that was a heartbreaking loss, but you know they'll be back.
Apparently, we're having some fun internet issues again. All right. Let me just roll with it here. So, in a nutshell, what Greeny was saying. In a nutshell, what Greeny was saying is that I think that they missed their window. I think that their shot to win the championship was last year. I think they're getting surpassed in their own division, and I think Green Bay is now a better team than the Lions. Are you serious right now? Like I get it. Like Green Bay, they started to turn things around last year. You want to talk about 1 year wonder? You can talk about Wonder Boy Jordan Love all you want. How did the Green Bay Packers, I mean, they've had a decent offseason, but again, it's March, right? Like Brad Holmes says, nobody gives a crap about March and April. Yeah, we do because we got better smartly. We didn't just go out and spend buckets of money. We still have $31 million in cap space before we sign Zietler. And we've covered every position on the team right now that had a major deficit. So I don't think that the Packers got better. I think that they laterally adjusted for what they lost. And they still have to put it together with a young quarterback. Yep, he had some great games last year. But what we saw out of Jordan Love in that first game in week 4, I still believe that that player is inside of him. I don't think that they had the strongest schedule, in the second half of the season either. Besides, the wins that they had, he had some good games. But this team is resilient. There's a difference here in Detroit. This team is resilient. They battle back. They play for the coach. They play for each other. It's a team that's built on foundation and core principles. It's not a team of eyes. It's a team of us. And that's what you're seeing is the difference in Detroit. But you also have an extremely savvy and smart general manager with a core team of his own, including Sheila and Dan and everybody else, and Chris Spielman, that all have the same vision. They're all traveling the same path together. That's how you're going to win in December, is when everybody is uniform in how they're going to get the job done. So now let me go into the chat for a minute, and then I want to go into something about teams that spend money in free agency and why I was hoping that we wouldn't have a general manager that wanted to go out and spend flashy. I'm not opposed to bringing in, 1 or 2 guys here or there if it makes sense. But I said from the very beginning, we were going to get second tier guys. Maybe one guy would have been in that top tier, element, but it didn't happen. And now I'm thankful that it didn't, because he did it right. And he's been doing it right. So, Braylon Dennis, Green Bay is not better than us. Love is not better than Goff. Not by a long shot. J-Rod, this clown just caused a can of whoop ass on the Packers. Is what I see. And he did. I mean, I don't know if he's a Packer fan or what Greeny is, but that's all he did. I mean, he angered the Lions. He pissed off the fan base. That just means we're going to fill up Lambeau even more this year, as long as they give up the tickets, which I think they're going to be a little bit hesitant to give up the tickets this year after what we did last year. Jomo Lion King says, Will, it doesn't matter. We have to prove it. Run the football, stop the run, protect the quarterback. Absolutely. And last year we stopped the run, protected the quarterback, and ran the football. We have to get after the quarterback this year. There's no excuses there. We have to. That is the one element of this game that was missing from this team. Kevin says, Quintricia spent a ton and we sucked. It's a great point. Uperlights, or Eric Rentamaki says, the 7 teams that spent the most in free agency last year did not make the playoffs last season. Eric, are you reading my paperwork again? Because my headline says the top 6 or 7 teams that spent the most in money in free agency last year did not make the playoffs. Great minds think alike, man. Great minds think alike. Nick P says, well, you could say Detroit got a top-tier defensive tackle and guard, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, but we didn't pay top-tier money. That's the thing. DJ Reader is a top-tier defensive tackle in this league. He's just injured right now, which reduced his cap hit for us in 2024 and 2025. $9 million guaranteed over the life of his contract right now is a steal for DJ Reader. Pretty much got a 1-year rental on the guy for $9 million. So we still got to get a pass rush, but you know what, Bruce Morton? Right now we have an interior pass rush. Don't forget that the pass rush includes the defensive tackles. If you have 2 great bookends and trash defensive tackles, your defensive ends ain't doing nothing. And we've already seen that. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson he gets held up all day in double teams when he actually has a double team. He has a tough time beating singles. He's got 3 or 4 sacks last year just by touching someone down. So it's all relevant across the front of that line. All sections need to be good. All positions need to be good to have a very effective pass rush. You cannot have one without the other. You can't. Now, if you had all-star defensive backs, all shut down defensive backs, then it could be a little bit different because they'll never be able to pass the ball. He's got to hold the ball or run with it. And then your line will have way too much time. And there's only so much, time that an offensive line can hold you back. So here's what I want to go into, and I'll keep working on the chat here as we go. So I've got some information here that I wanted to share. And it kind of goes in line with this top, 6 or 7 teams that spent the most money in free agency last year that didn't make the playoffs. Now, there's a difference, in my opinion, between going out and solidifying your team by grabbing the players that you need, signing the players, that are going to help your team win. That doesn't always mean it has to be the most expensive guy. It doesn't mean that it has to be the number 1 or number 2 or number 3 overall guy at that respective position. See, so many people appear to sincerely believe that spending large amounts of money in free agency is a legitimate means by which to construct a successful football team, and are convinced that by committing such a grievous error of judgment and refusing to sign premium players to high dollar deals means that your team won't do anything. So I guess what I'd like to present is a following list of NFL teams by which total money that was spent in free agency over the last 4 seasons or 4 years. And I've also included, how many playoff appearances each franchise has made during that same period, as well as the number of conference championships and Super Bowls that they've won. And these teams will be listed right now, and all of their monetary figures are rounded to the nearest million. This is not exact, but it's as exact as it's going to get for tonight. So the top 16 NFL teams by free agency spending, 2020 to 2021 and 2023 to 2024, and everything in between. New York Jets, $346 million. 0 playoffs, which means 0 of everything else. Jacksonville Jaguars, $324 million. 1 playoff appearance. and they lost. And they were bottom, I don't know, what were they, the 7th seed? I mean, they only won their division because nobody else did. Cincinnati Bengals, $287 million. 2 playoff appearances, 1 conference championship. Miami Dolphins, $270 million. 2 playoff appearances. Las Vegas Raiders, $249 million, 1 playoff appearance. New York Giants, $240 million, 1 playoff appearance. Carolina Panthers, $234 million, 0 playoff appearances, and then fired everybody the next year. New England Patriots, $230 million, 1 playoff appearance. Denver Broncos, $229 million, 0 playoff appearances, fired Russell Wilson, and now have $89 million in dead cap. Chicago Bears, $227 million, 1 playoff appearance. Los Angeles Chargers, $222 million, 1 playoff appearance. Houston Texans, $206 million, 1 playoff appearance. Now, they've built through the draft, and they just spent a bunch more money this year. And we'll see if they can get back. Cleveland Browns, $204 million, 2 playoff appearances. Buffalo Bills, $198 million, 4 playoff appearances, and they just had to cut like half their team in free agency. Washington Commanders, $197 million, 1 playoff appearances. Obviously, they just fired everybody and hired new staff. And they had to shed their 2 top-tier defensive players. Tennessee Titans, $159 million, 2 playoff appearances. You notice a team that I did not say out of the top 16? I think you did. Now, 50% of the NFL teams who spent the most in free agency during the past 4 years combined for a grand total of 20 playoff appearances out of 56. 1 conference championship in 8, 0, big goose egg, 0 Super Bowls. So to get a little bit more granular, the 10 highest spending franchises made 9 total playoff appearances and won 1 conference championship, with 3 top 10 teams missing the playoffs in all 4 seasons. Now let's talk about the bottom 16 teams. Kansas City Chiefs, $157 million spent. They are number 17th in this list, or number 17 on this list. That means 17th most money spent. 4 playoff appearances, 3 conference championships, 2 Super Bowls. Next up, your Detroit Lions. 18th most money spent, $148 million. 1 playoff appearance, 2 wins, almost a conference championship. NFC North championship, almost went to the damn Super Bowl. We barely spent anything. Baltimore Ravens were next, $144 million, 3 playoff appearances. Atlanta Falcons, $141 million, 0 playoff appearances. Pittsburgh Steelers, $130 million, 3 playoff appearances. New Orleans Saints, $130 million, 1 playoff appearance. Minnesota Vikings, $126 million, 1 playoff appearance. Arizona Cardinals, $126 million, 1 playoff appearance. Seahawks, $122 million, 2 playoff appearances. 49ers, $111 million, 3 playoff appearances, 1 conference championship. And I can't even remember how many Super Bowl appearances they just had. What, 3 out of the last 5? Same thing with the Chiefs. Philadelphia Eagles, $111 million, 3 playoff appearances, 1 conference championship. Indianapolis Colts, $96 million, 1 playoff appearance. Rams, 3 playoff appearances, 1 conference championship, 1 Super Bowl, $93 million. And the large majority of that came from where? Matt Stafford. And that trade that they spent that kind of money. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, $84 million, 4 playoff appearances, 1 conference championship, and 1 Super Bowl. Dallas Cowboys, $54 million, 3 playoff appearances. And last but not least, Green Bay Packers, $21 million, 3 playoff appearances. So relative to this last group, this last 16 teams, the 50% of the NFL teams who spent the least amount of money in free agency have been more successful over the previous 4 seasons. Combined for 36 out of 56 playoff appearances, 7 of the 8 conference championships, and all 4 of the Super Bowls. That holds true even if we exclude the Chiefs, as the 10 lowest spending franchises made 24 playoff appearances and won 4 conference championships and 2 Super Bowls. Notably, unlike their high-rolling counterparts, every team in the bottom 10 made the playoffs at least once during the period in question. Here's my conclusion on this segment here. While there are obviously other relevant factors not included in this analysis, the evidence from the past 4 years strongly suggests that spending lavishly on high-dollar free agents is not only an ineffective means of building a competitive football team, but also it's something that bad teams do and good teams don't. Successful franchises still spend money, but they primarily do it by offering extensions to good players they drafted, not by paying a premium to guys allowed to hit the open market. Now, I'm sure that ruffled some feathers, but I think that it needs to be said. Brad Holmes is not putting us into a bad position by not spending buco bucks on these, big name free agents. He's putting us in the best position. And if you're a numbers person, we have a higher propensity to make the playoffs, win a Super Bowl, a conference championship, and all of that just based on the numbers. The numbers alone speak to it. The bottom 16 spending teams win more. I don't really know why, other than they're frugal with their money. They're safe with their money. Maybe they're more responsible. I really couldn't tell you, other than it works. It really just works. You draft your guys, you pay your guys, you extend your guys, you build a foundation, your core takes you the distance. It's that core 22 players, really 25, that matter. You got your starting 11 on both sides, your kicker, your punter, and your long snapper. That's your core 25. Those are the ones that need to be paid most attention to. Everybody else behind them needs to be very competent at what they do and not let the gas off when they have to come in. They have to be, almost as good as their counterparts, almost as good as the starters. They never will be exactly, but I think you get what I'm trying to say here. You're only as good as your depth. And right now, Brad Holmes is building depth at a massive rate. And eventually, through the draft, we're going to find those guys that press the gas and get us home. So, all right, let me end this segment here on that. And Braylon Dennis says, what? The Bears had a playoff appearance? I thought they were trash. Or you said, wait. Yeah, they had one. Matter of fact, I think what was it, 2000, was it 22? I didn't write it down. FD Truckee says, with the players Holmes drafted and that have been dynamic players, we don't need to spend a boatload of cash on one player. He can spread the money to get good complementary players. Good point. Let's see. Eric, I'm glad you love the segment. King SJ says, forgot Jacksonville had a little spending spree. Yeah, they did. What about Buffalo? Let me go back to their money. So Buffalo is the 14th most spending team, 198 million, 4 playoff appearances, no conference championships, no Super Bowls. They are like the one outlier in the top 16 teams outside of the Bengals. But the Bengals haven't done anything for a few seasons. They had that one good season, and that seemed to be about it. They haven't been back. So the way this got started is Greenberg, right? He thinks that every other team got better than the Lions, or at least the Packers. And is that because they spend money this year? Because they haven't over the past few years. Because they definitely didn't get better by all of the players that they brought in, especially now today. I think that you could argue the Lions have completely upgraded this team at every position they just brought in, or every player they just brought in is a big time upgrade over what we had. I mean, DJ Reader alone is a 45-point upgrade per PFF over what we had last year. That's a huge upgrade. And now when you look at the guard that we just brought in, I mean, he's a 20-point upgrade over Jonah Jackson. Even though he may play the right side and Graham plays the left, Graham is at least a 12 or 14-point upgrade over Jonah Jackson. So J-Rod says, hey, I have a question for all of us Lions fans, true Lions fans, 51 years here. How does it feel to be a Lion and see talk of our Lions everywhere? And we are now the hunted versus a stand-up joke. Man, ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? You know what's crazy is I wear Lions gear every day. Like my jacket, it's cold out. I was wearing and everywhere I go, people, I don't want to say side eye me, but you see a smile come to their face. Like this dude's wearing his jacket still. Like, that's kind of cool smile, not like a being a jerk smile, but it's almost like a memory just popped in their head, or a vision of Jahmyr Gibbs running down the sideline, or Demo running for 70 some odd yards, or Craig Reynolds trucking Carlton Davis. It's like something popped in their head, and the jacket just, I don't know. It's a feeling of nostalgia, I guess. But every day I wear something, and every day it's on my truck. I mean, my truck's outfitted with, graphics and things like that to support the podcast. So I bring the Lions with me everywhere I go. Davenport is an upgrade. 1,000%. He's an upgrade. I mean, look who we had. Charles Harris. What did he do last year? And I don't believe that position is done. And I also don't believe that we know what we have yet. Mathieu Betts, we do not know what we have yet. So I was talking about Davenport and Charles Harris, and whether or not he's an upgrade. And Charles Harris graded out last year. Let's see here. Charles Harris graded out in the low 50s. Now, overall run defense was pretty good at 64.8. He only got in, about 270 snaps on the season. Let me bring somebody else up here. Let's bring in Marcus Davenport. All right. So Marcus, lower grades over Charles Harris. And he only got in 114 snaps. But when he does play, and when he played in 2022, he had a much better season. Who else did we have on the right side? Kaminsky, which we still have. Kaminsky, I mean, decent run stuffing grade, 71. Pass rush, not so great. Overall, 62.1. So out of those three players, John Kaminsky, still probably the best player on the right side. And even though he's a hybrid defensive line, defensive end. Hold on here. I'll pull up the roster for a second. I'm having trouble remembering who else we had on the right side. Let's see. Josh Pascal, which is interior defensive line. Unwazariki, defensive line. Broderick Martin didn't play. Houston was out the whole season. One second here. I want to try to do a comparison with Davenport and who else we had on the right side. I know we had another player other than Charles Harris and John Kaminsky. Why can't I think of who it was? Oh, the Aquara brothers. That's right. I'm sorry. Couldn't think. So Aquara. Now, I think every single one of us complained about the Aquara brothers at some point during the last season. Whether they were barely playing, limited snaps, pass rush snaps, 143, run defense snaps, 90, had great grade. But was he effective? He wasn't effective. But this, under 300 snaps, you really can't even grade the guy. And that's the same thing with Marcus Davenport. You really can't grade him because he's under 300 snaps. So let me get Davenport's 2022 up. I mean, there has to be a reason, right? I mean, the Lions, have to have let, the Aquara brothers go based on something. I mean, you wouldn't just let an Aquara brother go with those kind of grades to bring in Davenport, right? Well, I think here's the reason why. And again, you're over 300 snaps. So 483 snaps in 2022. And he's got a 76.8 overall, a 69.7 in run defense, and a 75 in pass rush. So when he played in 2022, he was a darn good athlete and a darn good pass rusher. He didn't have a ton of sacks, but he was effective. Had 34 pressures, 26 hurries. And now when you're joining a defensive line that has DJ Reader, Aleem McNeil, Aiden Hutchinson, I think that the sky's the limit for somebody like Marcus Davenport, who's going to be able to feed off of that energy. He's going to be able to feed off of the offensive line being too busy trying to handle, those three guys down the line. The one thing that I think that we're going to see a difference in this year, quite honestly, is the blitz scheme. I think that Aaron Glenn got, I want to say figured out too much, but we blitzed too often last year. And you can't do that to the degree that we were and have success. You have to be able to win naturally. You have to be able to win your one-on-ones and not always blitz somebody. I still think that we're going to utilize the blitz quite a bit, but not to the point we were last year. We had to blitz all the time and sell out because our guys were not winning reps. And we were trying to protect the back end of the defense because the DBs couldn't hold anybody. So this year, I really believe that we're going to see a pretty big difference, in how this defense projects and how they play, I guess, more as a unit than they did last year. I think the DJ Reader, Aleem McNeil, and Aiden Hutchinson, it's a terror, defensive line for any offense. And I believe that they're going to have a lot of success this season because now the middle of that defense is going to be very strong. And if you start sending a linebacker as opposed to always sending the defensive ends, I mean, the ends are always working to set the edge, to get to the quarterback, to stop the run on the outside. But now you can maybe sit back and I don't know how to say it. I guess you kind of pick your moment, if you will. You pick your battles. Now it's more of just stop the other team. You don't have to sell out. You don't have to blitz. Now you just beat the other team at their game. And I think that that's what this does. Now, I'm not saying that I'm all in on Davenport because I haven't seen him play in a while. And I can only base off of his tape in 2022 how good of a player he was then for the Saints. And I think that that's what Aaron Glenn and Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes liked about, Marcus Davenport, is the fact that in that scheme with the Saints, which is relatively the same scheme that the Lions run, he played well in it. But he did not have anywhere near the defensive line that the Lions will have this year. And he didn't play enough last year with Danielle Hunter to really do anything of note. All right, so Josh Jackson, we didn't start blitzing a lot until people started calling for AG's job. The D actually got better once we started blitzing. We did have some more success when we started sending the DB blitz. And I started calling from it. I mean, if you were to go back and watch, gosh, it was probably pregame breakdown week 3, maybe week 2, but week 3 is when I think I started covering some of the pregame breakdowns where I would go in and analyze their defense versus or their offense versus our defense, and our offense versus their defense, back and forth. And I would really get into it and try to break down all of the weaknesses, all of the grades, and, where the penalties were coming from, who could handle, the rush or not. And that's when I started calling for the nickel and the nickel, blitz and everything else. And we didn't do it. We didn't start doing it until, or at least with any regularity, until probably the Denver game. Pretty sure it was the Denver game. It was like middle of the season. But the DB blitz, I love. I love having the DB blitz, in the arsenal. I just think this year it's potentially going to be linebacker blitzes more so than DB. But we'll see. We'll see what they do. And I am very intrigued by Betts. I really do think that Betts is going to offer some speed off the edge that this team hasn't seen in a while. I mean, Hutchinson's quick, but he's not. He didn't get in as quick as a James Houston, and James Houston is slower than him in a 40. His game speed was faster. His play speed was faster. The way that he could bend off the edge was quicker. Hutchinson's a little bit too tall to bend, that low to the ground. But to your point, Bruce, I do believe that the interior defensive line is going to be able to feed our outside guys. I really do. And maybe I'm just wishful thinking. Maybe I'm drinking too much Coke Zero. I don't know. I'd rather be optimistic about it, though, because I think that this team is headed places. I mean, the signing today, that totally reinvigorated me for this draft. And this is exactly why we do so many mock drafts, because what just happened today completely changes everything that needs to get done in this draft now and where we need to be picking. I still believe that 35 to 50 is the meat of this draft. And that's where a lot of these good players are going to be. And teams like, the Cardinals, they got picks right there. And that's a team that I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions try to pull off a trade with. Try to snag one of their middle picks there in the middle of the second round. Trey says, I'm excited to see Betts in action. I think I am too, man. Like, I'm super excited. I don't know if I'm going to miss a day of training camp this time. I might just have to stay over there for like a week or something and get to every day, or go more, prior to, utilize the press pass and try to get in, which I've got to get cranking on getting my stuff over there so I can get accepted. Jason says, I can see us trading down for sure. Mock draft Monday. Yeah, we could do one if you want. We can do one. So anyway, based on the signing today at 9:00, we'll open up the phone lines, and I want to hear if any of you guys want to call in and talk about the signing today, what you now think about the draft and what we need in this first pick or two. J Mommy, see you in here. What's happening? Adam says Iffy and Branch are too good at blitzers not to use them. They are. Adam, bring in a rookie defensive edge, and we are off and running. Braylon Dennis, thank you. Romeo and Julian. I don't know why I was having such a moment of non-clarity for that. That, is what it is, I guess. Lauren McQuaig, Irvin, briefly. Aquaros, Pascal, Kaminsky was more interior. We had Campbell on the left, Hutch on the right. While that experiment lasted, wasn't it funny when it was one of the first games that Campbell was in, and he got sent over to the right side, or he went to the right side, and then Hutch went down and switched and grabbed Campbell and threw him to the other side of the defense. I don't know if you guys remember that play, but I thought it was awesome. Hutch was like, get out of here. You're in my spot. J-Rod says Brad signs a mentor and players for dog draft players. If I think I know what you're saying there, Brad signs mentors to be able to bring guys in through the draft. Lauren McQuaig, Harris was too slow to contain quarterbacks on the edge. Yeah, he was. David Amos says phone lines. He wants to talk. So 9 o'clock, I'll open it up. Let's see. I remember Tobin wrote, says, we'll check the Raz on Mason McCormick. I do like Mason. Guard tackle from South Dakota State. Great pickup at 73. He might even be available in the 90s. But we'll see. I do like Mason. He's got great arm length. Did great as far as all of his testing. And in fact, I'll pull him up here. Mason McCormick, where you at? I do like McCormick. 6'4", 309, ran a 508 40, 81 and a half inch wing, 33 and 7/8 arms. That's really long arms for a guard. 10-inch hands. So big kid, man. Perfect guard. And he's a guard center, right? I think he can play center too. Man, the studio is cold today. All right, so 9 o'clock, we'll open up the phone lines. Do you guys want to do a mock draft tonight? You want to screw around with one? Bucky says, I'm telling you guys, if you can go to the draft and witness Holmes, trade up for Marvin Harrison Jr. It's funny you say that, Bucky, because about 2 months ago, I called Derek out of the blue. And I said, Detroit Lions just traded up to grab Marvin Harrison Jr. He's like, what? What are you talking about? They traded their pick? Wherever the conversation went. And I said, no. I'm just saying, don't be surprised if Brad Holmes moves all the way up into this draft to grab some stud wide receiver. And my whole thought process was, if they're seriously trying to get $26 million for Amon-Ra St. Brown, I don't think that the Lions would want to pay that. And I think that they would put one in the funnel, bring in another wide receiver, because if conversations break down, if the deal breaks down, you have to be ready to keep that offense going. And I wouldn't be opposed to bringing in, a top flight wide receiver, even though it's maybe not a needed position. We do need another receiver, but I don't know if we need a true, number one right now like that. I think that we need another really good complementary, wide receiver that could take over for Josh Reynolds. But that was like the extent of my conversations. Don't be surprised, that if we jump up and try to take somebody, now we're moving up to number 4. I mean, that's going to cost at least 2 first and a second and a third, at least. I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah. J-Rod, that was funny, man. The play with Hutch and Campbell. Yeah, Sean Rounds, it would cost us a ton. A ton. Lone Wolf says, one night you should do mock draft and whoever calls, you make the picks. We can do that right now. Let me get this phone plugged in. I've been making sure it's charged up so that we can actually do this. The thing with the mock draft is we got to try to be quick, because the people that watch this show later that aren't live, We take 20 minutes to make one pick, man. It takes too long. I actually got to put like a clock on to get 10 minutes to draft. All right. I'll put the number in the chat. Then give me a few minutes to, I'll pull up PFF and we'll get a mock draft going. So anyway, tonight's show was just about, let me end the segment. So tonight's show was just about, Holmes and how Brad Holmes is smarter than Greenberg. Greenberg's got us pegged wrong. He thinks that we got worse in free agency and the Packers got better. And I think that the Lions got way better. To Bruce Morton's point, did we really upgrade the defensive end on the right side with Marcus Davenport? Maybe. I think that he is an upgrade based on his 2022 numbers, but he didn't play much last year. So again, to Bruce Morton's point, we probably don't know what we have on the right side. And we definitely don't know what we have with Mathieu Betts. But the rest of the picks that we brought in, even though I was critical on Carlton Davis, I think that it's going to be a beneficial pickup for us. I think that it gives the Lions latitude, a little bit of freedom, and experience, which I think is the most important thing. And I think that these guys, by the way they talk anyway, are fairly selfless, which is exactly what we need on this team. Well, we're done. We're done with the mocks, man. So what's happening? What do you think about today?
Good. I think even though we signed Kevin, what is he like, 34?
Yeah.
I still think we got to get another guard in the draft.
Oh yeah, I think that they will.
I think this is Holmes trying to fill in the needs in free agency, but I just don't think he gonna be able to do that this free agency. I think he gonna have to draft for need this upcoming draft.
Really? You think he's gonna totally change what he does?
I just don't think he got too many guys fall off the board. We still don't got an edge rusher. Unless you count Marcus Davenport.
I think the jury's out on Davenport. I think that this draft is going to fill. I think this draft is going to fill edge rusher. Basically what I just did in that final mock, which I wish I would have saved because that was a good mock. If we were to end up with something like that, I would be extremely excited. If we got a powerful edge rusher, a good corner that can be a starter that doesn't have to be this year, a solid guard that doesn't have to be a starter this year but can be, and another number one wide receiver that can take over for Josh Reynolds and battle with Amon-Ra St. Brown. What happens if Amon-Ra goes down? We do not have a second wide receiver right now.
In unpopular opinion, I know the chat gonna get on me about this, but I think J-Mo is better than Amon-Ra when utilized.
Ooh.
I don't think Amon-Ra gonna stay our wide receiver number one for too much long.
Well, if they don't pay him, he's not. But J-Mo's got a long way to go. He hasn't done anything of note yet. He's got a long way to go before. Amon-Ra St. Brown is top 3 wide receiver in the league right now, and J-Mo's somewhere in the bottom 80, 90 of the league.
I just think his potential, he's so versatile. I think he gonna be better than Amon-Ra. I think if he targeted enough, he might get more yards than Amon-Ra.
Well, the first thing he has to do is make sure he catches the ball. He had so many darn drops. That's the thing. So we were talking about Josh Reynolds last night in his drop. So let me ask you this. Jameson Williams had like 6 or 7 drops this last season. So
he was coming off an injury.
Oh, come on.
Jared. Hold on.
Oh, come
Jared
on.
Goff, Jared Goff, he just got a problem with getting the ball to everybody. I think they need one more off season to really get locked in.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. They definitely need one more off season, but I'll tell you this. Jared Goff doesn't have the problem getting the ball to people because last year in a couple of games, even the year before, he's hit 10 guys with a pass in a few games. So, yeah.
But I just think by the time Jared Goff get the ball to J-Mo is cold.
No, it's just
He's probably not expecting the ball.
J-Mo's like the third or the fourth look. He's not the first look or the second look. And he even admitted that after a game. He told us, and he told the media, he said, look, I'm not the first option. I'm not. So, by the time Jared gets to him, third or fourth option, if he's not in the right spot, Jared's not going to throw him the ball. See J-Mo's thing. I don't know if you listened or were you on when Adam Aniba was on with me a couple weeks ago?
Probably not.
All right. So he's a Washington scout, and he scouted Jameson heavily because Washington was supposed to take Jameson Williams, but we jumped up and took him. And what he said J-Mo's issue was, and even at Bama, is he's a freelancer. He doesn't follow suit. You know what I'm saying? Like, he kind of runs his own route. He doesn't run the route he's supposed to. He freelances too much. And that's what was happening. Yeah. And that's why he wasn't getting the ball, when he did come back in the first season. And let me clarify something, and I'll give you the floor back here. But there was someone that was writing comments in one of the videos talking about why it took us so long to get J-Mo active. And I think people forget we didn't take long. The Lions didn't take long to get J-Mo active. J-Mo came back from a ACL 11 months after he tore it, which is right on schedule. He played the last 4 games of 2022, and then he got himself suspended for this first 4 games, which should have been 6 of 2023. So the Lions didn't take long to bring him back. He took himself out of the game. And then he had to figure out how to, mesh and gel with Jared Goff, which didn't start until week 10, week 11, week 12, or whatever it was of the regular season, where he finally started to mesh with Jared. So, look, I think that J-Mo's going to have a much better season. I think that he's finally starting to put some things together, but he's a long way off still.
Yeah, I think I give J-Mo some slack because J-Mo didn't play his full rookie year.
Yeah, no, he missed out on everything.
But I think part of J-Mo running those deep routes is because he's only getting one-on-one coverage. Mm-hmm. It's not like you really got to shorten up on the routes like Amon-Ra. I've seen times where he just ran past these guys.
Yeah.
They just got to get the timing down.
Yeah.
Speaking of Josh Reynolds, he gets one-on-one coverage every game. Like week 8 through 13, he was getting 13 yards a game. That's too inconsistent.
Well, he wasn't the first look either. So J-Mo's the outlet. He's like the third, fourth look, depending on what kind of, depending on who's in. If Josh is in and J-Mo's not, it's Amon-Ra, Sam Laporta, and then Reynolds, or Amon-Ra, Sam Laporta, and then J-Mo, or Laporta, and then Amon-Ra, and then, whomever, and then J-Mo. It just depends on what look they're in, what they're running.
Yeah, I think for one-on-one coverage, he should be eating. And I want to touch on Cam Sutton. Cam Sutton had the worst PFF. Kendall Wilder had a better PFF grade than Cam Sutton last year.
I'm glad you brought that up.
I think they should restructure his contract to get it to be cheaper.
Yeah, the problem with that is they'd have to threaten to cut him. I want to show you something though, since you brought him up, and I'm not trying to argue with you or anything. It's just I found this really interesting when I looked it up. There is a defining difference between Kindle Vildor and Cam Sutton, and I wouldn't be surprised, if Kindle Vildor doesn't come back on a cheap contract. I would not be surprised at all.
I just actually found out Kindle Vildor, he didn't sign with the Titans. I don't know why I said he signed with the Titans. He's still a free agent. I think they might bring him back.
Yeah, they could. So Cam Sutton overall was a 56. Run defense grade 68. Pass rush 50. Coverage 53.9. And to your point, You said that he had a worse PFF than Kindle Vildor, right? So Kindle Vildor had an overall. Where's my screen at? It's not looking right. Give me 1 second. Let me pull it down. Sorry about that. Here we go. Now you guys should be able to see it better. Okay, so Kindle Vildor, much better grades than Cam Sutton. He had a 50 in coverage, though. So the difference is Cam was better in coverage. Kindle was terrible in coverage. But Kindle was really good on the pass rush and run defense. And the thing that you'll notice about all of our corners is their run defense grades are really good. So Kindle Vildor was 83.7. Cam Sutton was a 68. But here's the defining difference. Kindle Vildor's passer rating allowed down on the bottom left of the screen, 143.8. Whereas Cam Sutton was like a 113.9.
Okay.
So you know what passer rating allowed is, right?
How many yards you let people throw at you or something?
Kinda. So passer rating allowed is how good is the quarterback when he's targeting you. So how good is my passer rating as a quarterback when I'm targeting the receiver that you're covering? So if you have a really high passer rating allowed, that means that the quarterback is completing a lot more passes for a lot more yards and, for more touchdowns or for more first downs. The success rate is a lot higher targeting you than anybody else. So that's a big difference. Even though he had some better grades than Cam still wasn't allowing as many completions in that Kindle was.
Okay.
So, but I think that I would rather have had Kindle, to be honest with you. I think that now if we had this defense that we have now on the defensive front, I think the Kindle would have a much better year.
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna say Kindle Vildor is better than Cam Sutton. I know people in the chat, specifically Braylon Dennis in the chat, they gonna be mad. But
what do you say?
Cam Sutton. I never seen like Kindle Vildor out of position as much.
Right.
And I ain't gonna blame it all on the D line, because there's been times where people like Mike Evans and Puka Nacua ran right past Cam Sutton.
Well,
that wasn't on no defensive line.
Well, let me ask you this, though, because you jumped down Josh Reynolds' throat for dropping a ball. What about Kindle Vildor's 53-yard, alley-oop to Brandon Ayuk?
Oh, that's on him.
All right.
But I think you can develop Vildor though. Is Vildor what, 25?
Yeah, he's young.
Is he cheaper?
He's definitely cheaper.
Yeah, Cam's sitting at $10 million.
Yeah, Cam's making 11. Yeah, he's making $11 million a year. So Chef Talks, we've got Donovan Amos on the line, and if you want to call in, I'll put the number back into the chat here. I think what I'm going to do next when I do these mock drafts is I think I'm just going to do a show that's labeled just mock drafts. Like we'll do a show just for mock drafts. And that way the Off the Cuff podcast will be Off the Cuff podcast just for everybody. I just came up with that idea that way, the people that come in to listen to the podcast and to listen to the people calling in and the actual show, we'll do just the show. And then we'll do a different show for mock drafts. Does that make sense? Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. So
trying to figure out what I was trying to say.
I don't know. You're always saying something, Donovan. You always got something on your mind, man.
I forgot what I was going to say.
So let's talk about the first round now, though. Someone asked me if I think that the Lions are going to trade out of the first round. And I would tell you right now, my answer would be yes. I think that they would. And depending on what happens between now and the draft and the rest of the information that comes out, that could change. My final take will be the night before the draft, and my final take will be during the draft. When I'm doing it live. So as of right now, I think the Lions trade out of first round. What do you think, Donovan?
They got to. They got to get more picks. They only got 3 picks.
Are you going up or down?
If they trade, they got to trade back to get more picks.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Unless the situation happens where the draft that I just did, where they could end up with Jared Verse and still grab a top tier corner, a top tier wide receiver, and a top guard, then yeah, if you get 4 impact players out of this draft, I think that's more than expected. I think that they only need 2 impact players out of this draft, and the rest can be high quality backups.
Yeah, I was gonna say this. A lot of people think you get your cornerback 1 in free agency. I don't think that's the case. You get your cornerback 1 in the draft, and then you just fill in like the plug-in pieces. You just get something better than what you already got in free agency. You don't go spend no money like Snead and nothing like that. You get your cornerback 1 in the draft.
Oh yeah, no, I mean I think that's always
a lot of your best players.
Yeah, I think that's always the plan. Is you address your team through the draft first as much as you can, but these guys are like 3-4 years ahead of where we are. So the NFL teams with their scout team, they are looking at high school seniors and they are following them for years. So they've got data on all of these guys. They know what's coming down the line, as where someone like me, unless I'm hitting the road for somebody and I'm getting paid to do it, I only pay attention to what's going on this year. Maybe juniors and sophomores in college, I'll start looking at more. But to somebody else's question in the chat, it says, if an edge like Verse or Latu fall close to 29, do you still trade out? I'm running from Latu. So that means Brad Holmes will probably pick him. I'm running from Latu. I'm turning tail and running the other way. Verse, no, you got to take him. If you don't trade up to get him, you have to take him. But I would stay as far away from Latu as possible.
I think we in a position to draft and develop. I think Broderick Martin should be in the gym right now.
Oh, he has been. He's doing the Ali McNeil off season.
Yeah, I don't know why these guys think they can come in so heavy without no agility. You got to have stamina. Like, that's not always good to be so big. You need to trim down.
Yeah. No, he's working on getting more flexible and doing exactly what Aleem did, firm up, get quicker, more bend, more flexibility. Lauren McQuaig, to your point, I think you said, I think we already have Davenport and Betts. Are you talking about the backups and developmental guys? I think that Davenport obviously will play. Betts, we just don't know what we have. I don't think anybody knows yet. We're not going to know until this summer to see if he even sticks around. Chris Time.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Time thinks Latu's going to be nice and going to perform. He might. I think that he might in space. He might do well. But I'm worried about the neck injury. There's one thing that we know as Lions fans, and we just realized it over the last few seasons. Levi Onwuzurike had a back problem before he was drafted. That back problem has kept him out pretty much the last 2 seasons. Vaitai had a back problem. That back problem kept him out for 2 seasons. Josh Paschal had a back problem. He missed a lot of time over the last 2 seasons. Necks and backs you don't screw with. Literally. I mean, I got screws all up and down and plates in my neck and my lower back. And I'll tell you, every day is different. And I couldn't imagine playing football with all this hardware like some of these guys have. I couldn't do it. So for me, stay away from those guys. I just wouldn't do it. But it sounds like Brad Holmes' MO to me.
Yeah. Did you know Meek Robinson got the best PFF grade out of all our corners?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I was concerned. I'm concerned about David's PFF grade. maybe he take a step forward because he did come off a Super Bowl, so maybe he regressed. And when he get on a new team, he gonna be hungry again.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, these guys all know that they have to earn it. Amik knows that he has to earn it, and the best player is gonna earn it. I don't have any combine information for Amik Robertson, which I was really hoping to find because that dude's got some hops. And I mean, he can really jump, and I'm curious what his vertical is. I'm sure it's got to be out there somewhere. It's just not on the NFL site. But yeah, he's got some jumps, man. I mean, he's got springs in his legs. So even though he's a little bit, vertically challenged, the guy, he makes plays. Let me pull up their PFF real quick since you brought it up. Meek Robertson, PFF, and he's got a 74.7 pass rush, 65.5 in coverage, which that's decent for coverage. It's not elite. It's decent. Let me put it on the screen for everybody here.
You still there?
Yep, I'm still here. I'm just trying to put it up on the screen.
Oh yeah. When I was watching Davis's film, he missed a lot of tackles. I was like, maybe he coming off the injury, so that was the problem. I'm watching this film.
I don't know. How many missed tackles did he have?
He definitely need to get better at tackling.
So the thing that I love about Amik Robertson is right here. The passer rating allowed 85.7. So you could scrap all of his grades. PFF is kind of skewed. It's a guide. But the thing that I love about Amik is 85.7 passer rating allowed. That tells me that, quarterbacks are 85% successful roughly, against Amik. They're not, they're not having an easy time throwing at him. He only has 7 missed tackles on the season. And if we were to look at Carlton Davis, which I'm going to have to get a pair of glasses like Carlton Davis this year. I don't know what glasses they are, but looks like straight out of MIB, man. He's got some Men in Black glasses. So he had
one of his worst years.
Yeah, so he's got 9 missed tackles, so just 2 more than Amik Robertson, which depending on how many snaps they're in and what their percentage is, it may not be that bad. Passer rating allowed, though, is 107.4, which is right around Cam Sutton. And he's letting up 15 yards reception, which is quite a bit. But they were also in zone. So Tampa Bay plays a lot of zone, whereas we, the Lions, like to play man, but we haven't been able to do anything because nobody could play anything. Quite honestly, they were stuck in between man and zone and just couldn't do any of them good. So, and I say that, with a grain of salt because I'm just an armchair guy, 44 years old and out of shape. So I can't do anything like they can.
Yeah, I saw them go against the wide receivers in our division. They did do good though. I feel like Dave is gonna be hungry this year, and he's gonna get back to what he was.
So
Amik, that's a really underrated pickup right there. Amik Robinson, that's an underrated pickup.
Yo, it is
for $9 million.
1,000% it is. Did you happen to watch the video that I put out earlier today talking about Brad Holmes' intentional coincidence or genius?
No, I didn't.
Oh man, you got to watch it. So, and I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. So here's what I found out. I think that Brad Holmes, Josh Jackson, got to be careful with that stuff, buddy. I don't know what Tribe is talking about. What is he talking about in here? Who's talking about trading away a quarterback?
Yeah, those comments be dumb. They be like trade Jared Goff.
Oh, yeah. I think that what people are, talking about trading Jared Goff is you can't put it past Brad Holmes to do business first. If someone offered him 2 firsts and a third, he might think about it for more than 5 minutes. I don't think that it would be an instant no. All right. So anyway, the video earlier today about Brad Holmes, whether it's, he's doing things on purpose, right? He's intentional with what he does. Think about this for a minute. And this is what the video will kind of tell you, but go and watch it anyway. The cornerbacks, everybody that we took, so Amik Robertson and Carlton Davis, they played against all the teams that we're playing in 2024 in 2023. There's only 4 games out of the entire season that we have in 2024 that Amik Robertson and Carlton Davis didn't match up with last year. So all of the receivers in the NFC North, all of the receivers that we're going at out of those 13 games, they played in last year. So here's the nuts and bolts of it, but you're going to have to watch the video to learn the rest. It appears to me that Brad Holmes is going out and signing free agents that have playing history recent, like the same season history against the teams that we're going up against in 2024.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing.
I saw.
And it's every player that he's brought in so far, even Zietler.
The guard.
Yep, even Zietler. Same thing.
Yeah, they definitely got to draft another guard. They can't. He's 34. You can't just go in with him. You got to have somebody ready to step in for sure.
No, Clowney is not next. Chef talks. Oh, maybe for a vet minimum. I think that they're going to stay away from the guys that have no hustle and character issues. I mean, Clowney's been good, but I think that they would have been signed by now.
That Chase Young deal sounded real nice. But he didn't fit the culture.
Chef Talks Lions. You guys got to give him a follow and check him out, man. Chef Talks Lions used to be Chef Talks NFL, but Chef Talks Lions on YouTube. Check him out. He does a little bit of a different version. He's kind of got a little kitchen theme going on, but check him out on YouTube. He's got some good breakdowns, man. So I found it interesting, man. I was doing some research and I came across the schedules that these players, just finished in 2023 and how, again, coincidentally, they now have all of this experience from 2023 heading into 2024. And there's a lot to that. Like if you just had played a team the second time you play them that season, that's why interdivisional games are so tough. You know what not to do and what to do or do differently in the second game based on your opponent. So I think it's going to be a huge benefit to 2024. I really do.
What signers do you think we make this week?
I don't know. Lauren, the last I looked, we had 31 million today in cap space, but I think, after we signed Zietler, that's obviously going to be adjusted. They just made, an adjustment with Carlton Davis's contract, which opened them up to sign Zietler. I think that Brad has got
on Twitter.
Yeah, he's got I saw that. He's got to retain at least 12 million to sign the rookies. So we have about 20 million in available cap space right now. That's all we have. And that's maybe enough to get one extension done. Maybe. I mean, you could extend Goff with 20 million, but that's about it.
Yeah, I think we overblown the safety situation. I don't think we too much need a safety. I think Amik gonna take over the nickel position, and Brian Brent's gonna be another safety.
Yeah, so I mean, Brian's natural position is safety. He has played nickelback, the majority of the time, at Bama, and then of course last year. But I'm not worried about safety as much. I mean, I still think that we do need another safety. I'm not sure if that's coming from the draft or if it's coming from free agency right now.
That sounds like something you get from the draft.
We just don't have enough players.
Free agency.
Yeah, we don't have enough players right now for safety. We're at least one short.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but it makes sense to draft a safety more than to go pay a safety $12 million or something like that.
Well, hey, I wouldn't be mad about Justin Simmons coming into this team, but not at 12
I
million.
wouldn't be mad. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, hey, Donovan, I'm up against the
I'll catch you
10:30
tomorrow,
hour.
man.
Yeah, I'll chat with you next week, or I'm sorry, Wednesday, or whenever you call in next.
Got you, bro.
All right, we'll see you. All right, so we're at the 10:30 hour. I'm about a half hour over tonight, and Chef Talks Lion says, "I know not to argue with Will. He's got the sources and the receipts." Look, it's all fun and games, man. I put the receipts out there so people can develop a little bit of trust that when they watch and listen to this channel, they're going to get good information. Did Simmons sign with someone, Peter, or no? Are you just guessing there that he's not going to get 5? I think he was coming off of 12. I don't know if Branch pushes out anybody at safety. I just don't know if Kirby Joseph is good enough to push himself in. That's what I'm worried about. Ifeatu Melifonwu is a clear starter. But if Branch was to have to go back to safety because they're going to put Amik Robertson up in that nickel slot role, then I think that Branch obviously takes over at one of the safety positions wherever he's more natural. But I think that Iffy would have to slide to free safety. And those are tough positions too. Like free safety, strong safety. Those are not like easy positions. Some people make them out to be easy, and they're not. You have to be a real heady guy to play safety in the NFL. Iffy right now is our strong safety. Kirby's our free safety. And I would think that Brian Branch could take the strong safety role, and that if he could slide down to free safety. But then again, we also have Brandon Joseph, from last year, and I don't know how he's progressing or if he's going to progress. So we have options. But I do know this. We only have Ifeatu Melifonwu and Kirby Joseph and Brandon Joseph. So that's not enough players. It's not enough safeties. You need at least 4 safeties, if not 5, and at least 5 cornerbacks, if not 6. I think last year we hit the 53-man with 12 or 11 DBs altogether. So don't be surprised if we get one in the draft, I guess is what I'm saying. So anyway, we'll get back at this on Wednesday. Tomorrow we have the Rise and Grind morning show at 8:30 in the morning. Starts at Rocked On Syndicate. So if you guys want to watch it after April 1st, it's only available on Rocked On Syndicate. That's the channel. But tomorrow will be broadcast on all channels, and then it's going to migrate to Rocked On Syndicate. Please go there and subscribe. If you go to the description right now of the channel, you'll see it's one of the sponsored channels, obviously underneath the other channel, and that's where you'll be able to subscribe to it. I'm not sure what we're going to be chatting about tomorrow. We'll figure that out here tonight. But I appreciate you guys stopping in tonight. We had a great crowd. Obviously, when we do the mock drafts, it kind of weeds some people out. So I think that's why I'm going to cut that out of the show and do it separately. We'll do a total separate show for mock drafts, and we'll do it maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks or whatever until we get to the draft. So, all right, y'all, I appreciate you. If you haven't watched the beginning of the show tonight, go back and watch the beginning. It was all about, Brad Holmes being smarter than Greeny and how this team is smarter than your average team. They've spent less money than 17 other teams in the NFL over the last 3 seasons, really. And they have now more playoff wins than a large majority of the teams in the NFL over that same span. And the bottom 10 spenders in the league have more playoff wins, more Super Bowl wins, more conference championships than anybody else over the last 4 seasons. There's something to it. You do not have to go out and spend big money to win championships in this league. You have to spend smartly. You have to draft even smarter. And Brad Holmes has done just that. And I expect him to continue to do that moving forward. So, all right, y'all. Appreciate you guys. You guys have a great rest of your night. And we'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning. Take care. Bye-bye.